Show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe. Well, greetings, followers. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and welcome to another episode of Into the Fringe with Albert Rosales, our guest. And today we are joined by author, investigator, and researcher of paranormal humanoid encounters, Albert Rosales. And we're going to dive into his latest book soon. Born in Cuba, Albert Rosales migrated to the U.S. in 1966. He had had several unusual incidents as a young man while living in Cuba, and such incidents continued as an adult in the U.S. Rosales became interested in unusual phenomena and UFOs at a young age, but soon directed his focus to the crux of the phenomena, the humanoids, entities, extraterrestrials, UFO-nauts, etc. He began collecting data on such encounters from worldwide sources in the late 80s. He has a current database of close to 30,000 entries, which is updated and corrected daily, and has published 16 books to date. Welcome back, my friend, Albert Rosales, to Into the Fringe.
Hey, Gil. Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be back.
Great
Ready
to see
go.
you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the your anniversary a couple of weeks ago.
No worries.
But maybe next time I'll be able to. Okay.
Yeah, on the 200th one, we'll do that.
200, yeah.
Okay. I did want to mention this before we got started. As a trigger warning, Albert always brings the spooky, which is one reason he's a fan favorite. But many of these cases, while not involving violence, can be scary and even terrifying. This is not creepypasta. These are actual documented cases, so you have been warned. Albert, while we're waiting for folks to roll in, can you tell us about the different case types, what they mean, where they come from, and which ones you've added?
I usually investigate close encounters of the third kind, which fall under different subcategories like type A, humanoid or entity, seen on board a craft or on top of a craft. Type B, when there's a craft or a UFO on the ground, and entities are seen coming in and out of it. Type C, when there's a craft or UFO on the ground or light or whatever, what have you, and there are entities in the area nearby, but actually not seen going in and out. Let's see, type D, when there's a general flap of incidents in an area and there's an entity encountered, which is assumed is connected to the UFOs being seen. That's type D. Type E, which is an entity or entities seen or encountered without a UFO present. Let's say in your bedroom or in the woods, anywhere, in a farm field, and there are entities encounters any type of humanoid, but there are no UFOs in the immediate vicinity. Type F, it has to do with some kind of psychic encounter when there's some kind of a connection with you and the UFO, maybe mental communication or telepathy, but there's no entity actually seen. It's just the object. Type G, which is very common nowadays, an actual abduction, or voluntary entry into a UFO or a craft. A contactee or abductee. I added, well, there's type H when there's supposedly a crash and recovery of a UFO or an entity, like Roswell or Shag Harbor, whatever. I added type X, which is high strangeness cases, which would be anything, but really, really with different types of weird, narrative. They're just different types of incidents within one incident that just makes it really weird. And I can't really place it in with the other one, so I made a type X. Have a type I, which is an injury or death caused by an incident, an encounter with a craft. Type U dot A, unknown animal or cryptid, excluding Bigfoot connection with UFOs.
He's a humanoid
or
too.
Yeah, or Mothman. But this is like a strange creature seen, like, let's say a pterodactyl or some kind of other creature that's not supposed
Been a lot of those lately.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in, and we're going to start with 2021, which I'm going to let you begin with.
Okay. So you remember we left off, we finished 2020 last time?
Or we got close to it, but
Okay.
I marked where we left, and I was ready to start in from there, but you said you wanted to grab on to 2021 today, so it works for me.
All right, whatever we could finish 2020, or we could just start in 2021. All right,
it's up to you, my friend.
Let's because there's still a whole bunch in 2020 that we didn't cover.
There's some great stuff in 2020.
Let's go
go from there.
Yeah, let's go to the date, September. I don't think September 17th.
King George, Virginia.
No, in 2020, September 17th. Pennock, Minnesota. You see it?
I'm looking.
Okay.
Why is this giving me grief? There, I got it. Okay.
Okay, want me to start? Okay, I'll go
on. Sure.
All right, this is in, like I said, Pennock, Minnesota, Pennock. September 17, 2020, time 1900 hours, 7:03. Early in the evening, the window was at home. She walked into her living room and looked out her picture window, and she saw a copper-colored dome-shaped UFO, and what she described as a reptilian-type entity looking at her. According to her, the entity was a mixture of man and reptile and was standing near the UFO, staring at her at the windows. So I'm assuming the UFO was on the ground, but they didn't really state that. This is a short summary. The next she knew, she was in her living room and she was on the couch. She was incoherent and could not move, and she felt something in her brain. There was also a smell of a overheated motor. The UFO and the entity, the reptilian, had vanished already. This is from the MUFON case management, and according to someone I spoke there, the case is still under investigation.
Right. Okay. So the next one is, maybe I shouldn't have spoken so quickly. Visitations Mountains near Zawów, Poland. Or that's how at least a drunk Polish friend of mine pronounces it. Time is between 1700 and 1800 hours. A resident of Lower Silesia had come with friends to this location. It seems that when the sun sank below the horizon, he noticed a figure flying westward about 400 meters from him. The figure had the appearance of a typical cosmonaut or astronaut who sat in a sort of armchair. A helmet was visible and legs resting on something that was protruding. It took about 10 seconds and the humanoid figure moved away toward Verla. And it says, according to the source, he is still seeking additional information and witnesses to corroborate the event.
Yeah, this is from Polish researcher Arek Miasga. He has a blogspot and a prolific guy. All right, here we go. The next one is from Tbilisi, Georgia. Not our Georgia, the country of Georgia. Yes, country of. Sometimes I get people confused. The witness named Eteri Bishishabili saw a girl beckoning to her to come over to her. Then all of a sudden the girl transformed into a typical gray alien. Bishabili then heard a very low density sound in her ears that reminded her of the whining sound of a turbine. Like I just heard. She suffered with earache for a few days afterwards. At that very moment, the gray alien then transformed into a reptilian type creature. He had typical reptilian features, the green crocodile dinosaur-like face, yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and a square jaw with needle-like teeth. It scowled at her, showing his sharp teeth. The witness wanted to ask the creature something, but it disappeared.
I wouldn't be wanting to ask it anything.
No.
But please leave.
So this is some kind of shapeshifter, I would imagine. First it was a human girl, then a gray, and now a reptilian.
Yeah, one of those reptilians that David Icke keeps talking about.
Yeah.
All right. And this one is from Independence, Missouri, which is shockingly close to where I live. 2:45 in the a.m., October 18th of 2020. According to the witness, he was awakened by a humming mechanical sound and turned to see what it was. There was a bright white light shining in his window, so he got up and peeked through the blinds, and that is when he saw an extraterrestrial standing there next to the window. It was gray in color, had a large head and large eyes, small nose, small mouth, and small ears. The witness was in shock and just stared, not believing what he was looking at. All he could think of was that one of his neighbors said that he saw an extraterrestrial a few years ago, and he wondered if it were the same one. The entity stood there looking at the witness for about a minute, then backed up, walking backwards, and disappeared into the light. The witness then saw a metallic gray object in a somewhat disc shape with bright white lights that nearly made it impossible to see the craft. It was hovering at approximately 80 feet off the ground. It only made a low humming sound. Then it took off to the northeast at a high rate of speed, which was so fast that the witness could not guess what the miles per hour was. Strangely, the witness completely forgot about the incident until he was eating breakfast the next morning, and it all came back to him. Now, that says 80 feet, not 80 inches, right?
Yeah, 80 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was up in the air. I'm assuming the entity either floated back or teleported back into the object or something.
And
Typical
this is
type
from
C.
Assistant Director Margie Key of Missouri MUFON.
Right.
Do you know if this event made her an assistant director, or if she had the assistant directorship already before that encounter?
I have no idea. I really know because I got this a while back directly from MUFON, and somebody said that she's the one that investigated, and then I got her summary, but I have no idea. No. You know her?
I guess no. I just have known some MUFON state sectional directors, and a lot of them have UFO encounters of their own, which sort of sparked their interest.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is kind of weird. Long one is it's my turn, isn't it? Yeah. We go to Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit,
October 24, 2020. The time about 1300 in the afternoon. The main witness, his wife, as well as their next door neighbor, were conducting a yard sale in front of their respective gardens. At about 1 p.m. that day, he noticed two young women coming down the street from the left toward their yard sale. The two young women were both in their mid-20s and did not live in their gated entrance and partially fenced community. which is called Town Square Cooperative. He immediately said something strange about these two young women. They were both very attractive. One was taller, approximately 5'9", with medium length blonde hair, and the other was shorter, about 5'7", with light long hair. Both women were dressed in very stylish with what appeared to be brand new clothing and shoes. These two young women spent about 10 to 15 minutes looking around before leaving. While they were at their sale, his wife offered them donuts, which they both refused. However, the shorter young woman did take a small Snickers candy bar that his wife offered, but did not eat it while at the yard. He watched as the two intrigued. He watched as the two young women departed their yard. They started to walk back the way they came, but instead of going back to the left, the way they arrived, the taller one raised her right arm and pointed to the right, as if to say, "Let's go that way." This is where it gets strange, according to the witness. He knew for a fact that you cannot get out of their community if you go off to the right, because it is fenced in by a 7-foot tall fence with no gate or any other openings to go through. As he watched them proceed to the right, they got off the road and onto the sidewalk that leads up to and dead ends into the fence. There's a public pathway on the other side of the fence that goes to the main road, St. Albans Street. Once they got into the sidewalk and walking towards the fence, he decided to go to them to tell them that you could not get out that way because of the fence. He was only about 10 seconds behind them and could not see where the sidewalk then ends into the fence until he got closer. When he got closer and could see where the sidewalk met the fence, the young women were not there. He expected to see them either standing there trying to figure out how to get out or walking back toward the way they arrived. When he arrived at the fence, he looked around for them and, to his amazement, saw them on the other side of the fence, walking down the path towards St. Albans Street. He immediately looked back at the fence area for any kind of opening, and there was none. And then looked back down the path, and they were not there. So how did these two young women get to the other side of the fence? Were they superhuman and jumped over the fence or climbed over within 10 seconds? After doing a lot of thinking about this, his conclusion is that these two young women were actually extraterrestrials. I'm not saying they were extraterrestrial, but they were extraterrestrials that either dematerialized and then rematerialized on the other side of the fence. Makes sense. Or shifted and passed through the 4 inches space between the vertical bars. And this is from Phantom and Monsters blog.
That's Lon Strickler's, isn't it?
Lon Strickler, yeah. He's back now. And MUFON also carried this case. Interesting.
Yeah.
They could have been hybrids. There's an image there. Pretty cool.
All so, is this the one with the one photo of entity seen by witness?
No, the one before that one with the blonde, white hair lady with the blue eyes. That one. Yeah. Yeah, I usually enter the images right before the case. Image, then I go into the case. All right.
So
the next one is yours.
Like that one?
Yeah, like that one. That's similar to the two females seen. Hybrids, tall.
So that was the one we just read the case
yes.
to. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Fair enough. Okay, so this is the one from Detroit, Michigan.
That's the one I just read. You go to the next one.
Sorry.
Yeah, Las Vegas.
St. Albans Street, right?
Right.
Okay. Then I guess my images somehow got mixed up. So this is in Las Vegas, Nevada, November 22nd, 2020, time 6:50 a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. A man went to his south window to close the blinds as the sun was coming up when he saw a glowing green light. He ran outside to a parked lot of the YMCA to get a closer look at the object. The object a light, approached and appeared to change shape as it became closer. As the object approached, he thought that it was a large green spaceship. It was about the size of a football field. It was hovering low in the sky but did not land. He had his cell phone with him and snapped about 15 photos. The photos were taken when he first saw the object. Suddenly, a robot-like being appeared in front of him. He measured the distance the next day and said the being was 40 feet from him. The being was somewhat transparent, but was bipedal and bimodal. The joints of the being appeared to not be connected. The being levitated above the ground. It was almost like it was invisible, then it would turn into a being that you could see clearly. Lights were coming out of the being, the robot. The witness felt that the being was communicating with him the entire time. He took the phone with a $20 flip phone, or the photo, perhaps. There were several windows in the craft. He continued to snap photos and turned around and ran back to his house as he was in shock. Some of the photos that he took were of the being. He turned around when he went back to his house and thought that the craft was still in the sky, but the being was gone. The sighting lasted about 10 minutes. Skies were mostly clear at the time of the sighting. The witness stated that it took him about 4 minutes to walk from his apartment to the parking lot. He then snapped 15 photos in a little over a minute. The last few photos captured were of the robotic entity that he saw. He stood there for another 4 minutes looking at the entity and was kind of paralyzed and unaware of the passage of time. He then walked back to his apartment. At the time, it was 7 a.m.
Now, there's a couple images that are kind of indistinct. You can't see. Supposedly, that's the entity, but I don't know. I see something, but not quite. Yeah. You see it? I'm on the radio.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, no worries. I'll see you in a bit.
Right. Sorry about that.
Take your personal calls at home. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry. I had to answer that one. And then the next picture is supposedly of the craft. Yeah.
And that's one he took on his flip phone?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's a flip phone. Wow. That's,
I was going to say,
they had those
pretty
anymore.
sharp image for a flip phone.
Yeah, not bad. The entity's not a good image, but the other one it is.
Oh, is the other one, yeah.
All righty. So we go next to the next incident to a place called Ardmore, Oklahoma, November 28, 2020. The time 1714. Walking through a forested area, the witness heard what sounded like a pebble drop to the ground. When he looked up, he saw a tall black figure with no eyes looking at him. The figure was almost as tall as the house he was near. The creature looked at him for about 5 seconds while he was locked in place. The creature seemed to force him to stay. Then it let him go. It did nothing at all, yet it was intimidating. This is from National UFO reporting site.
Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Right.
Okay, so this one.
The next one? Yeah.
The next one is near La Rumorosa, Baja California in Mexico, December 2020, time during the afternoon. 4 school teachers were driving on a road outside of La Rumorosa, a town located in one of the harshest deserts in the world, and outside La Rumorosa, the landscape is bleak. On this drive, 4 teachers witnessed a gigantic bird-like creature fly in front of and around their car. They stopped the car and watched it soar off into the distance. They described the creature as being as tall as a man, with large wings and covered in feathers. It also had gigantic claws and what they talked, a face with like feathers on it. And this being also had lighter colored feathers around the neck area like a collar. Why do you suppose, Albert, it is that there are so many more pterodactyl and huge, owl-looking creature sightings these days?
I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of time rift or something that's happening now for some reason. That time slips. Either you go back to the past or sometimes to the future. These are being reported a lot lately in certain areas in Peru and Liverpool in England and other many places. And people suddenly find themselves either in a future landscape or in an ancient landscape, which is weird. And
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, here we go. The next one. We go to Puerto Rico, a place called Aguada, Puerto Rico. A couple was awakened in the middle of the night by the sudden hysterical barking of their dogs. The husband looked out the window and was stunned to see a flying or gliding at a very low altitude what he described as a fantastic winged creature. We got another flying humanoid. He described it as resembling a huge gargoyle, brown in color, and with a very muscular man-shaped body. He had bright red eyes, and he seemed to be looking down at the ground, as if he's looking for something. Terrified at what he had seen, he immediately went back to bed next to his wife, too frightened to go outside. He was unable to sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, while inspecting his property, he found one of his goats dead and another one injured. Apparently, the dead goat had been exsanguinated, drained all the blood. He assumes that the culprit had been the strange flying gargoyle. From Jorge Martin, Puerto Rico. That one's kind of scary.
Scary and still happening.
Yep. 2020.
Okay, this next one takes place in Tbilisi. There's that, the other one.
Yeah, that's in Tbilisi, Georgia. That's kind of a weird report. Yeah.
Is that a coincidence, or are these? Is this a repetition of the other one?
No, this is a different one. Yeah.
Okay. So this is December 8th, 2020 at 3:35 a.m. The witness, Konstantin Bernizad, who is also involved in other encounters, a former member of the Soviet Strategic Forces working with ICBM nuclear missiles, had reported contact with human-looking extraterrestrials for a while. They told him they came from Sirius B on a special 7-year mission to this planet. They said they had their representatives in different countries. According to the witness, the aliens look exactly like us, so no one can tell the difference between them and a human. He was also warned that he could die or be wounded in battle. On the above date, at around 2:12 a.m., a car was sent by the extraterrestrials. I wonder what concierge service they used to pick him up at his home in Tbilisi. He was then taken to an undisclosed location and boarded a spacecraft which took off silently. Through a porthole, he could see 2 more cigar-shaped crafts moving in the trajectory as his craft. All the spacecraft moved silently without making any noise. He said that he and the crew consisted of the extraterrestrials themselves, and as well as some 400 androids. He was one of the people from the country of Georgia, yet there were many people from other countries on Earth on this spacecraft and others. They were all dressed in special combat tight-fitting suits. Konstantin was dressed in this sort of suit as well. These combat suits had special features like plastic-plated armor, helmet with some kind of protective fiber, optics visor, the ability to stop the bleeding of a wound, first aid healing, and special combat boots. These combat boots can be used for surface as well as underwater assault. The helmet was equipped with a communications device. All the Russians were all the commands were either given telepathically or verbatim in Russian or Georgian. According to Constantine, he was taken for the assault mission to some negative extraterrestrial base in the Pacific Ocean, located underneath Fuego Volcano, located in an island near the coast of Guatemala. The negative entities also look exactly like humans. They had a base there that had to be destroyed because the negative forces had nuclear devices that would cause a cataclysm in this region of the planet. As soon as they landed, they moved into combat positions. Constantine was given an assigned position to fire from. He compared it to boar hunting. I wonder if that's supposed to say boar hunting. He was given a semi-automatic laser beam weapon that can shoot without recharge for 3 hours that was attached to his knee. He successfully completed his mission to destroy the enemy, yet was wounded by some kind of energy blast that caused a backache and depleted his energy. He was advised to rest for 10 days. The battle lasted for 3 hours, and then after his recovery, Constantine was returned home. The extraterrestrials have asked for Constantine's consent to participate with him in their non-combat and combat missions. Basically, they want him to be on call. He is still debating their proposal.
Now, this sounds like a...
sounds like an AI wrote it.
Yeah. And this, I got it directly from a Georgian researcher that swears up and down that he interviewed the guy, but it harkens back to the time when they have contact, these, with this weird story. But I'm not there to judge, and I collected it, and you be the judge. You know what I mean? Strange. Here we go. Uber. The next one, we go to Berkshire, Bedfordshire, England. First half of December 2020. At night, a man walking home alone on a public footpath between Begwary and Colsden felt something behind him. Turning to look, the man spotted a male figure wearing a black cloak hurrying toward him. No one had been on the path previously, and the man felt a sense of menace from the figure who seemingly emerged from thin air. Breaking into a jog, the man reached a fork in the path, quickly choosing a route. The man continued to jog before turning once more to see the figure had gone. This is from the paranormal database.
In Bedfordshire.
Bedfordshire. He was chased by some kind of hooded figure, cloaked figure. Yep.
Eventually, somebody's going to turn around and pull down one of those hoods, and then that they will probably do nothing after that.
So,
all right. So, as opposed to Bedfordshire, this one takes place in Mansfield, Nottinghamshire, England, December 13th, 2020 at 6:55 a.m. On the B684 road, Lime Lane, a tall, thin, black figure stepped into the road ahead of a driver, illuminated by the headlights on full beam. The figure moved backwards and vanished into a hedge. As the driver passed the spot, no one could be seen. Couldn't that just be like a hitchhiker or something?
Whatever it was, it stepped in front of a. It was agile enough to be able to move out of the way of the vehicle. So yeah. I don't know, and it suddenly disappeared. So it's in the paranormal database also from the UK.
Gotcha.
All right, the next one is we go to Louisiana, Bastrop, Louisiana, December 17, 2020, 6:59 a.m. The witness reported taking a video of an object over his street, no less than 100 feet in the air. He made a right turn and got closer within 100 feet of the witness. He could see a large window in the middle, and inside he could see two persons, quote, of average height standing at the window. They were of average height again and slim. Their skin was of a light complexion. They looked at the witness and smiled. Both were wearing bodysuits up to their necks. The object was the size of a small car, like a medium-sized Toyota Corolla. It made no sound. It soon disappeared from view. This is from MUFON again, but I haven't seen the alleged video taken.
But there is one.
Supposedly, yeah. A lot of these videos and are not shared by MUFON when they in their case management.
Especially if they might have, witness identifying information.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so this one takes place near Jesse Owens State Park, Ohio. And the date is December 17, 2020, during the afternoon. A strange video was taken approximately 5 miles north of McConnellsville. The witness saw something off the left side of the highway hovering about the tree line, which is no more than 500 feet in the distance. They pulled over and began videoing with 2 cell phones. All 3 witnesses claimed that it looked like a being sitting in a chair that was hovering and no sound could be heard. One of the witnesses said that it looked like the ejector seat that a fighter jet has in the movies. Its legs appeared to sit on a footrest, and they saw its foot slip off the rung, and that it lifted itself and repositioned its leg to rest on the footrest. They all also agreed that they felt that this object being realized that it was being observed and moved into the tree line. This is the part of the old AEP public land that has recently been purchased by the state of Ohio for public land. That department was contacted by one of the witnesses, and he was informed that they had not flown any drones and would have a record if they had because of state drone regulations. The area is also backwoods and behind state park lands during this time of the year.
And there's a video. There's an image of
this is supposed to be a frame of
the video. Yeah.
That video. If I can grab it here. There we go. Sort of look like that.
Yeah. Kind of definitely a figure of some type. It reminds me of the Polish case earlier that year.
I don't know that blowing it up any really helps.
No, it's some kind of figure, but you can't really tell too much. All right. Yeah, that's the end for 2020. Let's move on to 2021.
Okay.
And the first one is from Monteagudo, Chuquisaca, Bolivia. 2021, no exact date provided. At night, several residents reported seeing a short being that chased several children and young people. A couple hours earlier, they had seen a luminous red-orange loop-shaped object land in the same area, accompanied by a loud bang and leaving circular scorch marks on the ground. The short entity had a large oval-shaped head with large eyes and 3-finger hands. A woman by the name of Maribel Espinosa reported that the entity seemed to scan her children. That's all the information available in that interesting case.
Yeah, that's the most interesting case.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting all the ones from England.
Yeah.
This location is Billing, St. Helens, Merseyside, England. Again, in 2021, the time is 4 a.m. The main witness, involved in several other encounters, reported that his mother woke him up as she shouted to him at around 4 a.m. She said she saw a green-colored being standing at the side of her bed. He was surprised to hear
what she had said.
Rather, she couldn't describe what he was holding. Sorry, I missed something. She was surprised to hear what she had said, as she was the ultimate skeptic. She described the being as 3 to 4 feet tall, light green, completely naked, holding something to its hand. She couldn't describe what it was holding. She said she felt that it was trying to communicate with her. Their eyes met, and it stared at her for a few seconds, then floated across her bed and through the window. She said she didn't feel frightened at all. Its eyes were brown, like human eyes, but different in some way, slightly bigger, and she said they were kind eyes. For days, she was trying to explain because she felt it was trying to tell her something. She just got that feeling somehow. Months later, she can still see its eyes in her mind. There had been a few strange light knocks on the back window, and something keeps setting the CCTV camera off in the garden, but every time nothing happens on the camera. He has also reported some unnerving sensations, hissing in the ears, popping sounds in the bedroom. Then one night he saw a tiny blue light in his bedroom, like a spark with a pop for just a second, then gone. Also, sometimes he feels a presence in the room, which gives him a calming feeling, a peaceful feeling somehow.
Oh, not too bad. Okay.
Definitely, there have been worse ones.
Yeah. Kind of bedroom visitation. Okay, we go to the next one, which is you there? I think we lost you there a second.
Still here.
Oh, this is from coast of Kola Peninsula, Murmansk, Russia. That's a really isolated area there. 2021. There were several incidents. This is weird.
Can you start again? You were out for a second. You were buffering.
Okay, the next one is from the coast of Kola Peninsula in Murmansk, Russia. 2021. No exact date, but there's several incidents. Local residents reported seeing a bizarre, huge spider. Oh man, I would have ran for sure.
That would be freaky.
Sitting on the rocks. The creature was large, about the size of a cow. There was something clearly mechanical about it. Navy sailors also observed this strange creature from the deck of a ship. They described it as a giant spider or insectoid walking along the shore of the Kola Peninsula. This is from researcher Anton Amphilov. So it could have been a robot, mechanical type of creature. That's weird.
Would you take a stab at the title of the book that this source is from?
Anton Amphilov and Eduard Agon, directly from them. This is a Russian book. I had to translate a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Giant eusocial insectoids and their anthropoid symbionts.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, this one is in Traverse City, Michigan, early January 2021. The time is 1 a.m. A man woke up about 1 a.m. after sleeping for a couple of hours. He felt like he was being watched and had the urge to look out his bedroom window by peering between the shades. He saw a skinny creature with smooth gray skin that was about 4 feet tall. The creature had a large head and large black eyes, which covered about one half of its head. The creature was staring back at him. The man was sitting up in bed, frozen with fear. Then the creature suddenly put its hand on the man's face, and the next thing he remembers is waking up the next morning. He didn't tell anyone about his experience until he reported the sighting to the source. There were other people in the man's house, but none of them mentioned anything unusual. After the incident, the man had problems sleeping and was afraid. Albert, have you ever seen the movie Signs?
Yeah.
With course, Bruce Willis? This not Bruce Willis.
Not Bruce Willis.
This creature sounds exactly like the thing that the news supposedly, caught from a camera in a small
Brazilian plane. Yes.
Yeah. Very, very creepy.
All right, let's go to the next one. A place called Coyotes in Juana Diaz, Puerto Rico. Early January 2021. Several young people reported encountering two strange humanoid figures. One was a shadowy figure about 5 feet tall, and several meters from this figure stood a tall black colored figure with red eyes, long arms, and at least 2 meters in height, apparently without wings, that suddenly disappeared in plain sight. There were male witnesses and one female witness, which remained in a sort of trance for several minutes after the encounter. Apparently, the female witness remained in a sort of trance. So I wonder what this is. Apparently without wings. Or maybe they meant to say apparently with wings.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I wondered about that earlier when I was going over the cases.
I think it's going to be with wings. Okay. There you go.
And the source here is
This is a website run by Eugenio Tate, Los Extraterrestres, but I believe he took the information directly from one Jorge Martin from Puerto Rico.
yeah. You know, I've been trying like crazy to look up our mutual friend Antonio Huneeus, and man, he's nowhere to be found.
That's what I heard. There are a lot of people who have been trying to find him, and he's drop off
Yeah, he's like dropped off the face of the earth or something.
the grid. Yeah,
I really wanted to have him on the show. I guess I should have stayed in better touch with him.
I think, I don't know, maybe he just quit the whole thing.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
last I knew he was on openminds.tv, and when I spoke with Alejandro Rojas, he said,
Rojas, yeah.
no, he hasn't been here for a couple of years. So he doesn't know where he is either. Okay, so this one takes place in Barrio Cagueda,
Caguada. There you go.
Utadu, Puerto Rico, January 2021, time midnight. A third shift employee at a local appliance repair store, open 24 hours, reported that while taking a break outside the building, he saw a huge black-winged humanoid over 6 feet tall descend from the sky and attempt to attack him. The creature possessed glowing red eyes. Terrified, the witness ran back inside the closed door and hid behind some of the equipment. At times, looking out a window to see the winged creature walking back and forth as if it was looking for him. The witness remained hidden until the creature lifted up slowly into the sky and flew away. The next morning, he told the owner what he had seen and quit his job.
Yep. I'm out of here, he said. It's another winged creature from Puerto Rico. Okay, the next one we go to a South Jordan, Utah. January 19, 2021, around midnight, the witness was traveling west towards Redwood Road. There was a bright white light that flew over his car at an incredible speed. Shortly after it flew past him, he saw what appeared to be a red light and then a beam of red light, then what appeared to be an explosion, bright enough to light up the sky. He drove quickly towards the area ending up in front of a railroad tracks and seeing a fuel truck that was burning. At this time, he was unable to see the object. The police showed up and asked him to vacate the area. On his way home, he saw a disc of white lights, not even 2 miles away from him, hovering over an area of dense forest. It appeared to shine a second beam, white in color, that quickly picked up what appeared to be a tall white entity, possibly 7 to 8 feet tall.
It's not tall enough to be one of the tall whites, is it?
No, 7 and 8 feet tall. Yeah, pretty tall. But
aren't the tall whites like 10 feet tall?
9 or 10. Yeah.
Eh,
but some of them reported 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the witness believed that the disc, whether intentionally or not, caused the explosion on its way to pick up the entity. After the pickup, the disc sped off at a high speed. He couldn't track, heading northeast. The area of the forest is now close, monitored by private security, after several homeless people vanished while camping in the area.
Creepy indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, the next case comes to us from Conifer, Colorado, on January 31st of 2021, again at midnight. The main witness had gone to bed at his normal time on Sunday night around 8:30 p.m. He fell asleep promptly, which is somewhat uncommon for him. He doesn't remember falling asleep at all. While he was sleeping, he didn't dream normally, but then he had a dream suddenly out of nowhere. In his dream, he was sleeping in his bed in the same position that he always did. Every detail of the bedroom was exactly the same as if he were awake. There was a woman kneeling next to the edge of the bed talking to him. They spoke for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. He doesn't remember exactly what they were talking about, but they for sure had an in-depth conversation. He remembers that she looked half human, half not of this planet, and she was wearing what looked like a wig. Her hair was not real. Then he believes she told him that he was at home and to wake up. And when he woke up, he was in his bed, laying in the same position, and every detail of the room was still the same. Although when he woke up, the woman was still kneeling at the edge of his bed looking at him. After a few seconds, she said goodbye without speaking and disappeared. He was not afraid of the woman, nor did he feel any uncomfortableness around her, but felt calm. After the woman left, he went back to sleep without any issues. According to this witness, this was his most recent encounter with what he believes to be an extraterrestrial being.
All righty then. All right, the next one, there's an image. I don't know if you can bring it up, but it's from a place called Katoomba, New South Wales in Australia. March 6, 2021. The time is 4:15 a.m. Is a bedroom visitor. The well-known Australian researcher Rex Gilroy. He's written a lot of books. The UFOs and the what do you call Sasquatch in Australia? The
Yowie.
Yeah, there you go. He had gone to bed late when he suddenly woke up and for some unknown reason left the bedroom. The door was partially open and a dim moon glow filtered through the front of the door glass. He had not gone 2 steps before he realized he was not alone. In the corridor of darkness, the dim glow revealed a human figure, male, standing about 5 feet 6 inches in height. As the figure was closer to the door, Gilroy observed that the head reached the top of the doorknob. At this point, dumbfounded, Gilroy stared at the grayish and see-through being, whose facial features were indistinct due to the darkness. He then began moving back to the bedroom door a few feet away. At this point, the being, whose arms were at his side, raised his left hand and pointed his forefinger at Gilroy. Gilroy quickly returned to the bedroom, shutting the door behind him. His wife, Heather, meanwhile, had woken up and switched on the bedroom table light. Gilroy told her, "Heather, there's a being, ghost, in the corridor beside the front door." I guess being or ghost. He wasn't sure what it was. Heather suggested he open the door again to see if the being was still there. This he did, to find that the ghostly intruder was nowhere to be seen. This experience had him shaken, to say the least, and he went through the house switching every light on as he did, but he was gone, the being. According to Gilroy, the transparent being gave him a menacing feeling, quote, when he raised his arm and pointed the finger at him. So I guess he felt threatened by that. Was the being trying to warn them, perhaps? He's not sure.
This isn't the first story that I've heard like this. I think the first one was a ghost story, a real ghost story. But I've definitely heard that being appears, points at witness, and then disappears story before.
Yeah, they don't speak, but they just point at you. Maybe they're trying to convey something. Who knows?
It's awfully ominous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, of course, in Australia, Rex Gilroy is a very famous researcher.
Yes, he is.
Or rather, a researcher.
And I have some of his books too, which are difficult to obtain here in the U.S. I got one laying on here somewhere. But okay, we'll move on.
Is this next case the
image?
One with the photo with the helicopter in it?
Yeah. That was an interesting case. Also from Puerto Rico.
Pop that in here. Okay, so this is from La Charca, Calle, Puerto Rico.
You got it.
March or February in 2021, time between 11 p.m. and midnight. And let me share the screen here. Okay.
There you go. You got it.
All right. So the witness, Mrs. Maria Rosario Diaz, and her husband had arrived at their home late one night, and they were getting out of their car. She casually looked outside, and since they live in the first house on that side of the street, they have before them the neighbor's gate from the light, from the front rather, an open space to see everything in that area, the whole panorama. So at that moment, something unexpected happened. Something flew past them. It was a man-shaped figure, but dark, and it flew like a projectile in a straight movement fashion. To Maria, it was something strange, like some kind of animal. She didn't know how to explain it. She didn't see any wings on the flying creature, man or humanoid, that the being that she saw. It was roughly the shape of a man's body and was very big and muscular. The abs and chest looked very well defined. It had no body on its hair or on its head, and its skin looked leathery and all black. It had a face, but she couldn't get a good look at it, and yet she saw it was hairy. She caught a glimpse of a bit of grotesque features.
No, she said he had no hair on his body.
Oh, no hair on his body.
No hair, yeah.
Or its head. Okay.
Yeah.
She caught a glimpse of a bit of grotesque features. It was not the face of a human being. The creature was about average height, between 5 and 6 feet tall. Seconds later, a bright light beam appeared in behind the creature, something like a laser beam, white and bright, and from the very same point in the sky from which the beam had come, a military type of helicopter appeared. It was flying very low, and a man was standing at the door of the helicopter, looking out and looking down. The man standing at the door of the helicopter stared at the witness, and then they turned around just past her house and came back to watch them. They looked at the witnesses for a span of a minute or so. It seemed to Maria that they were concerned that they had seen the flying man or thing, and that they had been chasing the creature. After that, the helicopter flew away to the south. She suspects towards the Salinas town area where Camp Santiago military base is located, and they didn't see it anymore. She believes that the helicopter had been following the flying humanoid and that they had shot at it with that laser-like beam of light. She thinks the creature flew down toward a clump of bamboo trees in that area where there is also a river or stream. There is also a landfill and several houses. It is a very rugged area.
So maybe this creature was being chased by the military, yeah? Sounds like it. All right, the next one, also a weird case. A weird night is from Roxbury, Michigan. Again, Michigan. Mid-March 2021. The time is 2100, 9 p.m. Observation about mid-2021. Date uncertain. During evening twilight, approximately 2100 hours at 9. Partly cloudy to the north. Event duration approximately 10 minutes. Observation direction southwest at about 30 degrees inclination. Short gap above tree line. 2 to 3 days later, observed same event, same time of day. Okay, according to the witness, the object was auto-shaped, aluminum color, space frame, thicker in the middle, tapering at the ends, about 50 feet long, big wheel at each end, with a figure standing by the wheel just a little taller than the wheel operating. Or the wheel operating a shovel, something that looked like a shovel. Discarding something of the craft with a shovel, causing a reflected flash of light 2 to 3 times, and a small. Oops, where'd he go? Oh, jeez. Sorry.
The party you are trying to reach is not in service.
Oh, okay. Shovel. Discarding something of the craft with a causing a reflective flash of light 2 to 3 times and a small gain in altitude with each of the shovel flashes series, along with a short forward movement. This is weird. I mean, what kind of craft is that? The craft was towed by a large orange weather balloon, quote, which that's what you thought it was, connected by a cable about 50 feet long at the front of the craft. It was slow moving with a jerky motion, and then it gained some altitude and traveled forward with the wind, which was from the northwest. He called the state police, who treated him and his report politely. They advised him to call the many times he may observe similar events. Now, this is weird. It's some kind of UFO, but what kind of UFO is that? And
it's pretty weird.
All righty.
Did they say that it was shaped like an automobile?
Yeah, aluminum color space frame, auto shaped, he said. Thicker in the middle, tapering at the end, about 50 feet long. It had a wheel at each end, with a figure standing by the wheel, just a little taller than the wheel, the figure. And this figure was operating a sort of shovel. And it was discarding something off the craft with this shovel thing. Yeah.
This is the wheel Ezekiel said he saw.
There you go.
That's a very poor Jack Webb. Okay. So the next one takes place in, I'll leave this to you, Albert.
El Yunque.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Rio Grande, there you go. Puerto Rico.
Okay, March 29th, 2021, during the afternoon. An unnamed woman walking along a trail next to a lagoon called El Angelito, the little angel, was suddenly confronted by a winged entity which approached her, flying to within 4 meters of her. At this point, she found she couldn't move and strangely felt a sexual attraction toward the being. She managed to break from her paralysis and ran away from the area. She has described the entity as humanoid in form, very tall, black in color, with a face similar to a dog, with large claws and gray skin similar to that of an elephant, with huge black almond-shaped eyes and pointy ears. It communicated telepathically with the woman, telling her, "You are mine," and she ran away. As she ran away, it told her, "Don't leave." So I guess it didn't have the control under her that it wished.
This sounds like a triple X case. This is from
sounds like the Penthouse Forum, right?
Investigator Wanda Velez from Puerto Rico. All right, we go next to Michigan again. Michigan has been busy lately. Bessemer, Michigan, May 2.
Thank you, Don McDouglas, for becoming a member.
Time 2050. The witness was closing the curtains to his bedroom window and had his flashlight on so he wouldn't wake his wife. When he approached the window, he noticed an estimated 7 to 8 foot tall being. He quickly turned toward him and took 2 steps back. As he stepped back, it seemed to disappear from a gray hue, and he could only see the neighbor's shed, which was behind it from his perspective. So I guess it disappeared to a gray hue. I don't know. Not sure. He stood there with his light reflecting off the wall and illuminating his body, which in hindsight was a mistake. After a few more seconds, he turned off the light and eventually awoke and watched for anything else. He didn't see anything else, so he went to bed. He fell asleep and eventually awoke from pain in his head. It was a unique sensation that felt like some form of electricity through his brain. He was immobilized during the event, and it caused pain in his teeth. He will estimate that it took less than a minute, but it felt much longer, likely due to the adrenaline. When it was done, he could move again and could speak. His teeth remained with the odd feeling for the next day or so. He can't be certain, but he thinks there were long-term effects on his memory and understanding and comprehension. A couple of weeks later, it was raining outside, and the rain stopped over his house, but was raining across the street. Then, in about 2 seconds, it was raining on his house again. He did not feel or see anything during that event. This is from National UFO Reporting Site. See, some of these cases, you gotta tweak them, you gotta edit them, and sometimes the edit is worse than what they write.
Than the fixing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I guess he saw some kind of a being or outside that looked towards him, but he stepped back and disappeared into some kind of gray hue. Okay, or glow or something.
So this next case takes us to Rowella, Tasmania, Australia. It's in the summer of 2021, and the time is night. The witness, Tyson, who was also involved in other encounters, was staying in a piece of property owned by his employer north of the Batman Bridge. It was a small cottage with just some equipment in the yard and surrounded by forest. On the night in question, Tyson had just finished supper and went to bed. He was laying on his right-hand side facing the window. Something woke him, and he opened his eyes and saw a strange non-human creature, a gray, standing in the window looking at him. He was very frightened as he immediately realized that he was in some kind of paralysis, but the creature using telepathy or something was controlling his ability to move or not move. He then faded out to sleep. His next memory was waking up in a tree in the paddock in his yard. He felt strange, fuzzy, blurry, almost under the influence of some kind of a drug. He was wearing only his underwear. He wondered how he got there. He soon stood up and began walking toward the back door of his house. Suddenly, two people appeared in the yard. One approached him from face to face, while the other approached the back sliding glass door of his house and went inside. Tyson immediately recognized them as his workmate and his partner, though he thought it strange since they had split up a while ago. But for some reason, they were just in his yard in the middle of the night. Quote, "I didn't know why they were there," unquote, Tyson recalled wondering. All this time that this was happening, Tyson was observing things through a sort of haze that he likened to a static white noise you'd see on TV after it goes off the air, or maybe an old TV. As he stared at his friend, he began to realize that it wasn't his friend at all, but something else projecting a sort of cloak or disguise of his friend to him. He felt as though the one standing in front of him was attempting to stop him from entering the house. Tyson managed to move past him and move toward the back door. Suddenly, from the east, a large hexagonally shaped craft came over the house and split into two. One section landed in the yard while the other half moved further up into the sky, 20 feet higher than it had been before. The craft had big lights. Terrified, Tyson ran up to the screen door and ran into the house. As he stopped over the threshold into his house, everything just seemed to stop. No noise, no UFO in the backyard or strange people. It was just dark and quiet. There again, that sort of Oz effect. He'd remained up a bit wondering if he was dreaming. He reasoned that he might have gone out to pee, as he'd previously done when feeling drunk and rowdy, though he had not drunk anything on that night. He checked the yard and everything was calm. He went back to bed. He fell asleep. When he woke, he felt a heavy feeling. His eyes opened and he saw that he was 6 inches from the ceiling. He gained consciousness again and found himself lying on a chrome bench top. He was lying on his right side. He observed a non-human being, a gray, standing beside him. Tyson sensed that its only job was to keep him paralyzed via its mind. He was in a white room. 3 other beings were there, dressed in white trench coats or lab coats. They appeared to be doing something to his leg. Tyson could make out that there was the one being there standing behind him. He had an emblem of some sort on his shoulder. He could not recall the emblem in any detail, and got the sense that he was their superior. Tyson, in his mind, claims he heard a faint conversation between the superior and the one keeping him paralyzed. At some point, he could hear the superior say something like, "This is my favorite part," or "This is the best part." For some reason, this caused the being doing the paralysis to break its concentration, and for a brief moment, Tyson was unable to move. He looked back.
Was able to move. Yeah.
He was able to move. What did I say?
Yeah. Unable to move.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And he was able to move. He looked back and could see that the beings were doing some kind of operation on his hamstrings and leg. They stuck something large in his thigh. That was his last memory. He woke up at 4 a.m. He stepped into the kitchen and saw the glass door was ajar. He always locked his backsliding glass door. He knew that his experience had been real. He went to work at 6 a.m. and told a coworker. The coworker, Rick, wanted to hear it in detail and asked him to stop by work and have a beer. Tyson did. They stayed up drinking and talking. Tyson slept on the couch. The same thing began to play out. Tyson woke up in the middle of the night to see an alien standing in the middle of the lounge room. Tyson immediately sat up, and at that moment, Rick wandered into the room. He'd gotten up to get a drink. The alien was gone. Rick never saw it. Tyson never saw the being again. In the months after the event, he had trouble with his legs, trouble that he didn't have previously. Tyson described the beings he saw as the typical gray you'd see in movies. They had an oblong head, large black eyes, a slit for a mouth, and their skin was a blue-green color. They stood about 4 to 5 feet tall.
But they were obviously shape-shifting to look like his friends.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning.
Or casting some sort of illusion, yeah.
Yeah. Weird. Okay. The next one we go to Missouri again, O'Fallon, Missouri. June 1st, 2021.
Not too far from here.
No, 11 p.m. It was approximately 11 p.m. when the witness went outside on the deck of his girlfriend's apartment and saw something on the basketball court adjacent from her building. The area is usually pretty secluded and dark due to the surrounding trees. He had noticed a flash of light that was moving around but couldn't tell what it was. So he grabbed his phone to see if he could get a better visual. What he saw was an illuminated figure walking awkwardly around with knees bent, and he was slightly hunched over, along with two other figures dressed in black outfits. The encounter lasted approximately 5 minutes, and then suddenly they just vanished. He watched for a couple more minutes to see if anything else showed up or if he could see where they went. He finally worked up the courage to go down to investigate further, but found no additional evidence. This from MUFON.
Yeah.
Type E. I guess I put C, but yeah, there's a light that was seen, so who knows? Okay.
Good catch. So this location is Wavertree, Liverpool, Merseyside, England. A lot of the same places today. And the date is June 24th of 2021. Time, again, midnight. At around midnight, a middle-aged couple walking their dog along Thingwall Road said they saw what looked like a silhouette of a winged figure swoop down out of the sky and land about 100 yards away on Thingwall Road near the gates of an allotment. This sinister entity seemed to be watching the two witnesses. The couple turned and hurried home. The witnesses told their neighbor, a retired pub landlord, what they had seen, and he said he had heard about something similar being seen down by Sefton Park many years before. The couple said they could see that the arms and the legs of the figure and its wings were glinting in the moonlight, looked very dark and leathery. And that's from Haunted Liverpool 34.
By Tom Sleeman. He documents a lot of incidents from that area there. Merseyside, Wirral, Liverpool. Okay, the next one is a famous Chicago winged entity. It's like lately all the encounters apparently are winged creatures or entities, humanoids.
Yeah.
Chicago, Illinois, July 22, 2021, about 10 p.m. at night. The window was part of a ground crew for the major air facility at O'Hare. And a lot of them are near the O'Hare International Airport.
Mm-hmm.
And they were working on unloading a cargo plane that had arrived earlier that evening. He was operating one of the lift cargo containers down from the plane to the ground. It was about 10 at night when the call came over the radios that there was a report of an unknown person being seen on the tarmac near the fence. He began looking around and saw a large man standing approximately 50 feet away from them, near the fence separating them from the road. He must have been close to 7 feet tall, but the witness was not close enough to tell for sure. He was wearing what looked like a black coat and was just standing there. The witness radioed his supervisors and told them that he saw someone over by the fence, and the supervisors ran over to where he was. But this time, the entire ground crew was aware of this man's presence and was radioing into the supervisors. It must have been no more than 20 seconds after that the first airport security vehicle showed up. One approached the man from the other side of the fence, while another two drove past the witnesses and stopped short of the man, who by this time was easier to see with the car lights on him. It did not look like a man the witnesses had ever seen. He was solid black and had red eyes that must have been reflecting the lights like cat's eyes. It also had wings that were now spread open and must have been about 15 feet from tip to tip. The wings spread. This man let out a loud screech. It sounded like a lot like a barn owl when it tried to warn you away. This man then started flapping his wings and took off. You could hear the sound of the wings as it took off into the air and was gone in seconds. The witness was honestly scared for his life and started to pray for protection. He's certain that whatever the creature was, it had to be the demonic, an agent of the devil, quote. A lot of his co-workers were also very frightened after this thing took off, and many of them ran inside the safety of the plane when the creature took off. This is one of the cases received by Lon Stickler.
Yeah, a really good researcher.
Yeah.
And it does seem to be Mothman Ho.
Type, yeah.
It's just really bizarre to me that so many sightings after all the humanoids in chairs and all that kind of thing go back to being the Mothman after all these years. It's like they're getting more prolific. You know, the sightings of the Mothman are speeding up rather than slowing down.
Yeah. Or, similar type creatures. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one we go to
this one is in San Francisco del Chanar in Cordoba, Argentina.
Right.
August 1st, 2021. Time unknown. A bizarre creature described as about 2 meters tall with a dog-like head and bright red eyes, long arms with clawed hands, dark hair, made its appearance on the date in this area. The entity was said to jump from rooftop to rooftop at night. The police tried in vain to capture the strange creature, and the local Catholic Church intervened performing masses in order to calm the local populace. There were also reports of mutilated cattle and horses in the area.
Yeah. Another apparent flying creature is, lately the humanoid reports are really getting bizarre. And not like in the 50s or 60s where they have your normal close encounter. if you can call them normal, All right, the next one.
Yeah, it's definitely getting curiouser and curiouser. Now, speaking of curious, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Was this supposed to be the graphic for that one or the next one?
The next one.
Okay.
This is a security camera.
Thank you, Jedi Bill, for becoming a new member.
This is a place called Armenia in Quindio, Colombia. August 2nd, 2021. The time was 2300, 11 p.m. At the local government administrative installations, a security guard reported being attacked by an unknown entity. According to the security guard, an unknown man walked next to him, and his body immediately became numb and heavy. The building was supposedly empty when a strange man approached him and asked him if everyone had already left the building. When he answered, the stranger suddenly disappeared in plain sight. The guard immediately radioed the control room asking who he had just spoken to. The guard in the control room assured him that he had been alone. He had been talking to himself. At this point, the guard became frightened, and he was suddenly violently thrown against a wall by an unknown force. Stunned, he looked around but did not see anybody. He sat on the ground totally confused. Once on his feet, the guard was again approached by a strange man, who without saying a word grabbed him and threw him on his side. The security camera captures the security guard being thrown to the ground twice, but fails to record the image of whatever or whoever attacked him. After the incident, the guard requested to be transferred to another location. That's weird. It's not that clear, but apparently this guy was thrown around, but yeah, he's on the floor there. By something, an invisible entity or some kind. Crazy.
Meryl, swing away. Swing away, Meryl. All right. So our next one is in... Is this the one in
Tulip?
Tulip?
Yeah, Washington.
Tulip, Washington. I've never heard of Tulip.
I believe it's a Native American name, I believe.
And this one takes place on August 4th, 2021. And we're done with the photo, right?
August 11th, this one is. Yeah, we're done with the photo. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to pay attention, honest. At about noon on an 80-degree day, the witness was in his front yard washing his truck. Suddenly, about 10 feet away from a bright light or portal opens and a man steps out. The witness tells the man he can see him. The man, who is human-like, then stepped behind the witness, and the witness said, "Talk to me." The conversation was verbal. The man then faded into a form or energy ball, like a sphere. Again, the witness said out loud, "Talk to me," then faded into a form like the energy ball. The sphere then moved up next to the witness and disappeared. According to the witness, the sphere has visited him twice. For 5 days in a row, he has had dreams of being in some sort of transport device.
So this is some kind of entity coming out of a portal.
Yeah. And not being very talkative.
No. Well, the next one's very short. So I like that here. It's Cornwall, Prince Edward Island, Canada. You don't hear too many cases from there. August 20, 2021, at night, a brief report stating that a 3-foot tall black hair covered creature.
I think you missed the one before it.
The one before it is Tulip. You read it. This one's August 20.
Is this in Sussex?
No, it's right before the Sussex
Okay.
case. It's in Canada. Cornwall, Prince Edward Island, Canada, August 20, 2021. At night, a brief report stating that a 3-foot tall black hair covered creature floated near a witness at this location. This is from the 2021 Canadian UFO survey. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any additional information. I've been trying to get additional information on that case. Okay, the next one is the one from Sussex. Want me to get that also? Since that one was so short. Okay. All right, this is Horsham, Sussex, England, August 23rd, 2021, 11 p.m. While traveling as a passenger along the A24 road, a witness spotted a man dressed in dark blue jumper and shabby brown trousers standing by the roadside. The man had leathery, mummified face and sunken eyes. His mouth was slightly agape, and his wispy shoulder-length hair touched his collar. The window was left shaking, although the driver was unable to see the man. Sounds like a zombie. This is
Sounds
again
like
from
Bubba Hotep.
from the paranormal database. Again.
Okay, this one is 17 miles west of Coquille, Oregon, on September 1st of 2021 at 10 a.m. A ranch contractor and his supervisor saw a blue-tan, brownish furry figure about 9 to 10 feet tall ahead of them on a road. They sped toward the creature. The figure had no appendages or visible head. The figure then shrunk down to a bright orange sphere, levitated, and then shot off to the left over berry bushes that were about 8 feet tall and vanished. The orange entity, or object, changed into a lengthy tan-colored object about 15 feet long and cleared the bushes by about 40 feet. The whole sighting lasted about 20 seconds and no sound occurred. The figure appeared right under a power line. Well, there you go. That's the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Later, the two witnesses examined the berry bushes and found no anomalies. Nothing was disturbed, and cobwebs were still on top of the berry bushes. Man, if I had seen that, I would have turned myself into the nearest padded room.
Weird.
That's crazy.
Another shapeshifter. Okay, the next one we go to Liverpool again. Liverpool, Merseyside, England, October 1st, 2021, 10:30 a.m. The witness looked up in the sky and saw a man-shaped object with what appeared to be a jetpack, but had like a Viking-shaped headgear on. Another flying creature entity. Before he could take a video with his cell phone, the figure vanished behind some metal tower structure. Seconds after that, a dark orange orb-like object appeared, which turned a light, then a dark red, and flew pretty quick across in the direction where the flying man had disappeared. He looked at another part of the sky and saw a big flash of light behind some clouds. So I guess these objects or orbs were connected to the flying entity.
Mm-hmm.
A dark orange orb.
It was orange orbs are a nickel, a dime a dozen. I mean, they're all over the place. They turn into Bigfoot. They turn into saucers.
Into Mothman, yeah.
Yeah, Mothman, all kinds of stuff. Okay, this is in Houston, Texas on Halloween. No, October 13th. Sorry, I transposed those numbers. 2021, and this was around noon. Enjoying a beautiful but cloudy day, the witness saw one cloud stop while the rest moved down, which caught his wife and his attention. They noticed a swirl in the cloud until it opened in a portal. 3 figures flew out in the shape of a spade and then transformed into human form. They were light-skinned with long hair, with fitted outfits that resembled the characters from Superman 2. Kneel before Zod.
Yeah.
They hovered in front of the portal area as if it was checking something. The witnesses noticed the windows of the craft, which caused them all to notice the doorway of the craft open, and then observing other being seen the background of the doorway as if they were riding on a train or subway.
Other beings, yeah, in the background.
Other beings.
Yeah.
They saw 2 of the human figures go back inside and walk down a stairway into the inside and faded away as they went down the stairs. The remaining figure began to look at the witnesses, staring at him, and they felt the beings were apparently intentionally showing themselves to them for whatever reason. The last figure flew inside the portal and went inside the doorway of the craft. He touched the open part of the portal and swiped it with his hand, and the portal began to close automatically. When the cloud was swiped, it began to swirl, and as the portal was closing, the human figure was watching their reaction. The whole thing eventually disappeared. And this is from New Fork.
That's the National UFO Reporting Center.
With
Peter Davenport.
Peter Davenport, yeah.
Okay.
Now, I heard that he sold his database to
Bigelow?
Bigelow, yeah. Is that true?
I heard that too. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but I heard so. I heard that, yeah. The next one, we go to near Meridian, Butler County, Pennsylvania, October 26, 2021, dusk. A witness was driving in the area, noticed some movement in the bushes near the road around dusk. A hair-covered creature, at least 7 feet tall, walking upright and moving very fast, moved to the right. It looked hairy, muddy, and matted. Within the hours, in the same general area, witnesses reported observing an exceptionally large triangular object that a witness estimated was the size of 3 buses hovering about 100 feet above the ground. The object had a light in each corner. The object made no sound. The witnesses reported feeling a static electric charge while it was observed. This is from Stan Gordon. Now, I included this one because there's a possible relation between a Bigfoot type creature and a UFO, since they were seen in the general vicinity.
And that is Stan Gordon's
website.
Wheelhouse.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so this next one comes from Whitehall, Illinois at 4:06 a.m. And the witness says he was awakened early in the morning and saw 5 long fingers by his face. He then saw 3 5-foot-tall beings with large black eyes by his bed. He heard something hit the wall, and then the beings were gone. He later found scratches on his neck and arm. The witness reported a craft landing in his wheat field back in May 27 of 2021. He planted soybeans, and they wouldn't come up where the grain had been trampled.
This is from UFO's Northwest website. Mm-hmm.
And the image is for this case coming up in Portugal, correct?
Yes. A place called Porto, Portugal. November 2021, late evening. The anonymous witness had just left work and was walking home when she slipped on the sidewalk and twisted her ankle. Month had gone, and no matter how how she had tried, there was no way she could put any weight on the foot. She couldn't walk. Okay, it was she injured her foot. Okay, even with shoes with adapted soles, she had a lot of pain. The pain was so severe she couldn't walk for any distance, and she loved going out for walks. She had to use painkillers to be able to sleep. One day, she went to sleep, and it hadn't been 10 minutes when she opened her eyes and found herself on a long, narrow bed. In a long, narrow bed like the ones used in hospitals. She had just woken up, still lying down, and looked around to see that she was in a white room, an all white room. She looked to her sides, and to her left side stood a gray alien about 2 feet tall, very small. Slowly, she was able to move with the help of the being. She was able to get up, and she was taken towards a closet. He opened and took out some clothing. He opened the closet and took out some clothing and sit down. Okay, they opened the closet, and then she was made to put on some clothes from the closet. Her accompanying being guided her down a long, all-white hallway. Through an opening, she could see that there were in outer space. Her guide asked her to wait for a minute and went somewhere. In that short time, she waited. She turned around and saw a crowd of beings in front of her. There were about 30 of them, all standing staring at her. At that moment, after seeing the crowd in front of her, she turned to her left and her guide was back. However, he was now accompanied by a tall blonde man with long hair. When she saw him, she felt right away that she had known him for many years, quote, and that she loved him. She felt very happy, and the tall blonde man came to her and gave her a kiss. The sensation she felt at the moment was as if the whole universe revolved around her. It was magical and surreal. After that, he joined the crowd. After a few minutes, a young boy about 10 years of age came out of the crowd and called out to her, "Mom!" She looked at him shocked. It was then that the man grabbed the boy's hands and took him back into the crowd. He couldn't see them anymore. She couldn't see him anymore. She never saw them again. Her guide looked at her and asked her telepathically, "Are you searching for him?" She answered yes and realized that the crowd had gathered in order to say goodbye to her. She didn't want to leave and wished she could have stayed there. At this point, she blacked out and woke up at home to all those memories of what had happened just a few minutes before. She was confused, got up, and went to her daily chores when she suddenly realized that her foot had not completely healed. So as to have no doubt, she put on her clothes and went out for a walk. She walked for 2 hours with no ill effects. So this is like a cure claim.
Of which there are
abduction.
many like this.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So this one comes from Parbold, West Lancashire, England, November 7th, 2021 at 1:18 a.m. The witness was out on a regular long run in his area and would use various routes around where he lived. Running through woodland was running through the woodland with his headlamp on, he saw a strange object in the field as he exited the wood. His eyes adjusted and he saw an oval-shaped object in the field. The object must have been around 30 feet in width and only 10 to 15 feet in height. It looked like it had landed, but with the lights, it could have been hovering just off the ground. The witness stopped in his tracks, not believing his eyes. He felt no fear. He watched for a minute or so. Then he noticed something or someone move near the object. He was walking a little closer. Turn that off now. And it turned and looked at him. The figure looked human, but smaller. It was almost a reflective single color, but it could have been a suit. The witness felt very warm all of a sudden. Then the figure seemed to vanish under the object or get in. The witness wasn't sure. Then about a minute afterward, the object rose to around 25 to 30 feet, hovered, and turned on some warm lights that seemed fixed onto its surface. The surface seemed a dull gray matte color. He couldn't see any windows or panels or wings. There was just a slight hum, but no other noise that he could make out. The wind had seemed to die down and everything around was quiet. The object then rose higher and at around 100 to 200 feet, very quietly and smoothly. Then it seemed to tilt as the lights moved around it, and it shot off like a bullet leaving a gun, again with no noise. The witness sat there for around 10 minutes trying to contemplate what he had just seen. He was not carrying his cell phone.
All right, the next one, we go to Alberta, Canada. There's no exact location provided. November 12th, 2021 at 9:30 p.m. The witness saw 4 or 5 entities looking into his house from outside through a large floor-to-ceiling front window. They were holding onto a glowing circular object that from the center seemed to scan inside the house. Seemed to be scanning the house. The scan was circular and shaded gray, and it will flash such if it were taking pictures of the walls inside the house, particularly focusing on the large mirrors on the wall. They apparently stayed for 3 hours, but the witness lost track of time and he hid under the dining room table. There were also entities inside the home, about 5 in the living room. The ones outside had white faces, blue helmets, and red jackets, and they all looked the same. He could not see any other features. The ones inside were all covered in short, light brown fur, including their faces, and they had large, slanted golden eyes with a small button nose. Different type of entities here. From MUFON Case Management.
Yeah, that is interesting. So this next case comes to us from Yelm, Washington on November 14th of 2021, time 11 p.m. The witness reported seeing a hovered lighted object. Entities were seen, animals reacted to the events. The craft was low flying and silent. He could see inside of it and saw one silver-clad human feature sitting on a red chair and a door opening and closing. Without emitting any noise, it quickly left, then came back and hovered over the river. The witness claims he has a video that shows part of what he saw. The river can be heard, a bird and himself, but not the craft.
This is from National UFO Reporting Center. The video is not included in the summary.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one, we go to Jacinto Arauz in La Pampa, Argentina, late November 2021, about 7 a.m. A missing woman by the name of Irma Rick was found 40 miles from where she had last been seen, and she told authorities that her puzzling disappearance was precipitated after she heard a strange sound outside her home, which sounded like a strong wind. After a lengthy search, police wound up zeroing in on an area where they subsequently found the disoriented woman the following day. Unable to speak as a result of the puzzling incident, she wrote a message explaining that she had gone out to her patio after hearing a strange noise emanating from her yard. That's the last thing she remembered. This occurred on a Tuesday morning, and on Wednesday morning around 10 a.m., without having recollection how she got there, she was found sitting on the side of the road, disoriented. Authorities knew to look for her there because upon her reappearance, the woman made several odd cell phone calls to friends and family wherein she said nothing, but they could hear a peculiar buzzing sound. The witness had since regained her ability to speak and is recovering in a nearby hospital. According to the woman, when she regained her senses again, she was briefly surrounded in a powerful white light and could not hear or see anything around her. Adding a layer of intrigue to the case, a witness has come forward saying that they spotted an inordinately bright light around coming from a seemingly out-of-place object in the sky in a general vicinity of where the disappearance had unfolded. But this sighting appears to have taken place several hours after the woman had purportedly reappeared. Reportedly, a strange unexplained mark was found on her head. This was from Argentine investigator Quique Mario. And this case was all over the news in Argentina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very caused quite a sensation over there. There's a YouTube thing on it.
Well, I'll put that into the chat, but I'm not going to play it in case I get...
I think it's
Spanish.
What?
Well, it still might have copyrighted music.
Okay.
But I'll put it into the chat anyway so that people can check it out after the show.
Okay.
I think it went in there. There it is. All right. So the next one is by the Utah-Wyoming border, correct?
Yeah. That one.
And this is December 21st of 2021, 12/21/21 at midnight. Two brothers were returning home from watching a movie. They were driving along the Utah-Wyoming border on a beautiful moonlit night. They had decided to take some back roads to their home in Utah. Off in the distance, about 2 miles in the sky, they observed a big burning sphere coming down. To them, it looked like the shape of a tennis ball, but was 10 times larger and was on fire. Orange and white flames were seen coming out the back of it. It hurtled toward Earth, eventually hitting the ground. The two brothers confirmed what they had seen and drove on another mile, where they said on the left, about 300 yards into the field, was a massive ball of burning something. They parked their truck and got out and began walking towards it. The object was still a roaring fire. About 50 feet from the object, one of the brothers thought he heard whispering coming from it. They were in the middle of nowhere, and there were not any houses around, so they found this odd. They continued to walk closer. Now standing about 40 feet away from it, the other brother heard it too. Quote, "I swear I could hear somebody talking, and so we both stopped, and he looked at me and he says, 'You hear that?' Unquote. He answered yes, but the sound like somebody talking, and they immediately became frightened. One of the brothers took out his phone and started recording. Then it was the weirdest thing. We just started hearing dogs barking, and there's nobody that lives out here, and so we just turned it off and started running. It was weird how it turned from people whispering to like a weird bark. It's hard to explain. They just started running back to the truck as fast as they could, and the barking happened for about 2 seconds. Then it stopped and was completely dead silence, the weirdest silence." And this is from the Monsters Among Us podcast.
Yeah. This is weird. Another weird case.
Indeed. I think we have time for a few more before we bring on a mod and we'll do the wheel. And I just wanted to mention that we are giving away one of your books tonight, but we don't know which one.
I just pick one and I'll send it.
Yeah. All right.
The next one, we go to Yamburg in the Jamalo-Nenets Autonomous Region in Russia. December 26, 2021 evening. A man parked near the river in Yamburg claims he observed a man with fish scales and the head of a fish. He had 3 eyes and no arms. The witness watched as he came out of the river and began running at him. Apparently, the creature spoke to him in Russian, asking him to come to him. Terrified, the witness got back into his car and left. I would have too. Weird.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
All these limbless creatures are freaking me out. Okay, so we're going to begin the 2022 cases now. And this location is in St. Louis, Mauritius. The date is January 2022, and the time is unknown. The first time the witness saw something was a bright light on about 100 meters away. The next day, she saw it again. She saw it again. She was scared, and she approached it. It was an object that had landed near the foot of a mountain. She ran back home. After 2, the object again landed, and this time the witness got closer to it, hiding behind some shrubbery. On the hull of the craft, she saw a symbol or insignia resembling a triangle within a circle. When she walked around the object, she saw 2 darkened windows, and inside, several tall humanoid figures wearing what appeared to be large motorcycle helmets. After that, she lost consciousness. When she woke up, the craft and the humanoids were gone, and she claims that she saw them again 3 months later. farmers in the area also reported missing cattle.
Interesting case.
E or G?
Yeah. Maybe she was abducted and she had no memory.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time, yeah. Okay, now we go to England. Dunwich, Suffolk, England. January 15, 2022. The time 7:15 a.m. At a work site along a cliff, a man in black wearing a hood was spotted while a witness parked a work van. The figure moved behind a static lodge caravan close to it to the edge of the cliffs and vanished. An immediate search of the area began and lasted for 30 minutes, but no person could be found. Another black hooded entity disappears. All right, you got the next one.
Yep. And this one is near Ponce, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So this is at the end of January 2022 during the daytime. In a mountainous area north of Ponce, the witness Juan Carlos, 29, reported encountering a winged gargoyle-like creature on 3 occasions. On one of them, he clearly heard the creature call him by his name in a deep baritone voice.
Unfortunately, that's all the information on the case, but that's another gargoyle type creature seen in Puerto Rico recently.
And I'll take the next one just for the heck of it.
Okay, thank you.
This one's located in Vancouver, Washington, February 9th of 2022 at 1 a.m. The witness was awakened at 1 a.m. by a sound which he mistook for a very loud car or street sweeper of some sort. His room faces the street in front of the house, giving him a very good view of passing cars and anything else out there. Also parked in his front yard is a rundown Chevy pickup truck. When he opened the curtains, he saw a 20-foot diameter, 1 foot to 15-inch thick polished steel disc hovering in place in the street. The object had solid edges, flat like the rims of a coin, and in the center, on the bottom of the object, was a large, bright light. It was projecting a beam of some sort down onto the street, which he could see was stirring up leaves and branches, causing some sort of wind to whip up. His pet rabbit was also reacting to this, running around his room in a fit of panic, thumping and grunting unhappily. He assumed that the sound that the object made was disturbing the rabbit also. That's funny. I thought the thumping and grunting unhappily was the rabbit. It is the rabbit. It was a deep, low hum, not unlike that of an electric transformer, and he could feel it resonate in his entire body. He doesn't claim to know how the next thing happened or why, but the nearest he can describe it was that the object communicated with him telepathically. He could perceive spoken words, exact spoken words, as follows, quote, "It's okay. We're not going to hurt you. We're just taking some measurements. We will be gone soon," close quote. He remembers feeling an odd sense of calmness despite seeing what was essentially a UFO in the street outside his house. The witness is an aerospace and engineering enthusiast, but not a UFO nut. And while he has seen some strange aircraft in his time, he has never seen anything like this before or since. He could feel the UFO attempting to communicate a sense of safety to him, which evidently worked, because rather than being startled like he normally would have been, he scoffed in annoyance at the loud noise, covered his ears, and went back to sleep. He woke up the next morning with his hands clasped firmly to his ears. Moreover, the Chevy 10 pickup in the front yard, the Chevy S10 pickup in the front yard, which has a broken taped over the windows on it, or tarped over the windows on it, had its tarp blown away by something. It had also been pelted with various objects, possibly pebbles and small stones, as the left side of the truck was scratched and dinged up when it hadn't been so a day earlier. And this is also from the New Fork.
Yeah, National Reporting Center. Beautiful.
Yeah. Feel like one more?
Sure. Okay. Next one, we go to Yardley Wood in Birmingham, England, February 11, 2022. Late night. On this evening, the main witness, Lewis, he's been involved in other encounters, and his wife, Helen, after a few drinks, had gone to bed like normal about 10:30 p.m. During the night, he suddenly awoke for an unknown reason. He was lying on his right side, with Helen facing the other way alongside him. He was fully covered in the duvet, which he said was unusual. He said that on the odd occasion when he was alone, he tends to sleep like this as he gets frightened, but not when Helen is also present in the room. There appeared to be glowing light in the room, which he could see shining through the bed covers. He seemed to be completely paralyzed, and there was also an intense feeling that there was something else in the room. Lewis thinks he called out to wake Helen, but she did not respond. Sounds like my wife. This seemed to go on for about 30 seconds. Then suddenly there was two very bright flashes of light, 2 seconds apart from one another. The first flash was bright white, but the second was more red in color. As it occurred, he saw the image of three silhouetted gray beings standing in the light. They were short, with large egg-shaped heads and slender bodies. The central one was standing a little closer and reaching out towards him with a outstretched hand. Another one that's interesting. In the vision, the beings seemed to be standing meters away from him. Upon seeing them, he jumped in panic. He immediately found himself lying in the darkness of the room, covered in sweat. The bed covers were no longer over his head, but he could still move. He was understandably extremely frightened of was what had taken place. One second. What had taken place? He looked at the clock and found that it was 1:05 a.m. He lay there for what appeared to be about 5 minutes. After this, the paralysis seemed to subside, and he found he could move again. He rolled over onto his left side and dropped off to sleep. In the morning, he didn't mention what had happened to Helen, as he thought she just put it down to a dream based on his interest in the subject. This is from the BUFOG Birmingham UFO Group website.
Isn't that the worst thing when people know that you're already into UFOs and something unbelievable happens to you?
Yeah,
and
you'll
they'll
never
never
be
believe you?
believed. Oh no, yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So at this point, I would like to welcome in Canadian Spider-Man.
Hey,
He looks like he had his ears lowered again. Having some trouble hearing you.
he's frozen in time.
And space. I can see you, but not hear you.
No, he moved a little bit there. Now, there we go.
Now you're muted. Wait, maybe I can hear you. Say something.
No, we can't hear
Nope.
it.
De nada.
Can't hear.
Okay, so if he can read the chat, then he can understand just to spin the wheel. He either has a bad connection or he's been chugging tequila again. And Nucho 13 is here. No habla Canadian, says Herc 130. Spidey pantomimes. Spin. There we go. And thanks to Jill for making the wheel. Boy, we got a lot of disinterested people today.
Whoa,
I have
only
a feeling
3?
somebody's going to win.
Whoa.
Okay, give it a spin. Now we can hear the wheel. Phantom
Phantom Boomer. I think he won already on before. Yeah.
Yes, but he didn't win today. So
Yay.
congratulations, Phantom Boomer. And thanks a lot, Canadian Spider-Man. We appreciate it.
Oh, he's frozen in time again.
And we'll see him soon.
All righty. So tell him to get to you, and then you get to me.
Yes. So here's how it
Yeah,
works. Just send me an email at gil@sunflower.com, and I will pass on that information to Albert, and we'll be good to go. And congratulations once again. And Darius Munchausen says, I have one of Albert's books already. I bought it with cash money. Woohoo!
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a terrifying night for both of us, I'm sure. So we will. Phantom Boomer mentions that he has UFOs over Florida, which will be our final book.
Yeah.
That'll be our final date, Albert.
Oh, we could always do more cases, new cases. Yeah.
I think I need to rotate other people in.
All right.
We can't keep meeting like this, Albert.
No.
But we'll definitely swing, back and follow up.
We'll be in touch.
You always have the great cases. Now, after this, of course, you're going to be doing the new book is 2020 to win.
2016 to 2022.
Oh, okay. So big book.
If it's ever published, yeah. No.
Awesome. And where can we find out more about you and your 30,000 cases online, or what used to be online anyway?
Well, and I'm going to have a website ready by the next month. My books are all on Amazon. I used to be UFO Info. Remember that website that unfortunately closed down?
Mm-hmm.
He was ran by a guy from UK, from England, but he had a death in the family. He couldn't.
Oh, right.
All righty.
Okay, we'll see you next time. And until then, it's Cardinal Sin.